This is the Dvar Malchut. This is compiled from speeches that were given by the Rebbe in, where is it? Parshat Shkalim. Compiled by the Rebbe is Parshat Shkalim from 1992, Tafshin Nun Beit. Okay, but this is a compilation of the ideas of what the Rebbe said. So it's a bit shorter, but it's good. Here we go. B'kaviyot kama v'kama shanim. It occurs in many years that Vayakel and Pekude, the last two Torah portions in the book of Exodus, they're read on Shabbat together. Shabbat Zu, but in this Shabbat, who it is, that's the way it was back then in 1992, and that's the way it is also by us, that the Torah portions, Vayakel and Pekude, they are separate. So, like we said, the Torah is coming to tell us about how to serve God. We're created and we're being created every instant brand new, amazingly, only to appreciate God and to act accordingly. To act accordingly. That's why we're here. And so, what can we, and therefore God gave us the Torah. The Torah is an instruction book, how to appreciate God, and what does it mean? What are the implications of that? How we should act, how we should feel, how we should think, what our attitude should be, what our thought, speech, action, what it should be. I mean, it's very clear that we have free will and you can do whatever you want to. So if you want to drive the wrong way on the road or drive on the wrong side of the road, or drive a tank in the middle of the road, or whatever you want to do, you can do anything you want to. A pogo stick or something like that. You can drive. You can do anything you want. You have free will. You can do what you want. But there's also what's right to do. If you don't want to do what's right, you have free will. You can, no problem. But there's also what's right to do. Now, a lot of people will say, listen, I do what makes me feel good. Well, that's not right. That's wrong. That's wrong. It's not bad to feel good. Not wrong. But that shouldn't be your compass in life, is what makes you feel good. That is what is good. Feeling good is wonderful. You feel good, but that's not should not be your guide. If anything, your conscience should be your guide. If anything, and that also can be diverted and perverted, your conscience. So, what are you really supposed to do, right? I mean, everybody wants to do what's good for themselves, or what's good for them. So, God gave us the Torah, and the Torah is the instruction book from the Creator, and only the Jews are the only nation, religion, whatever you want to call it, that even claim that there is such a thing, that they received directly from God 3 million eyewitnesses that God took them out of Egypt. We've been passing the story down for the last 3,300 years that it's happened, and we're still, here we are, we're still existing, despite all the opposition and all the confusion, all this, here we are, and that God gave us this book. And the book is the Torah. And the book is telling us what to do. So the Rebbe said the book is telling us what to do in a much more detailed and intimate way than we can possibly imagine. That every detail is coming to improve us and to direct us. Nowadays, there's this big thing called coaching. Coaching, very, and people go to university. They used to learn things in university, not anymore, I guess. But it used to be things. I guess they still learn medicine. They still learn university. Now they're learning about all sorts of bizarre, what do you call it? Disidentification, so that nobody knows who they are anymore. But they used to learn things about how to act and how to think and how to talk, how to be a good speaker, be a good doctor, be a good brain surgeon, be a good lawyer. They teach you what to do. Well, the Torah is also teaching you how to live. What your attitude toward life, toward your fellow man, toward the whole creation in general, toward family, toward children, what it should be. So everything has a purpose. So here we go. Vayakel, when these two Torah portions are separate, it comes to tell us a special lesson. Vayakel and Pekude, they are separate. So there must be a lesson from this. Bira Inyan, how, let us explain this, what this implies in the service of man. Klalot avodat adam, the general services of man in general, serving the purpose why we're here is like the rabbis say, Ani nivresi l'shamash eskoni. I was created in order to serve my owner, my creator, in other words, God. The reason we're here is in order to serve God. That's why we're here. Ulif'ol gam b'kol inyanei olam, and to affect all of the world, the shamash is kona, that the whole world should also serve the creator. Now, this is a thing which is found in every human being. Every human being feels responsibility. Every human being. They feel responsibility. This can be twisted around, that you feel, you're not doing your responsibility. Guilt can be a very major positive force and a very destructive force. Guilt means I got to improve. I'm doing something wrong. I feel bad. I can't just go, row your boat down the stream or whistle, just life is but a dream. And what me worry, how they say? No, you have to take things to heart. Sometimes you make mistakes. Feeling of guilt is very good. For a minute, for 2 minutes, that cannot be your guiding light in life. I am guilty. I am born guilty. I am guilty. I'm terrible. I'm a sinner of this. That's bad. But where does that come from, that misuse of guilt? Because the fact is that everyone feels responsible. Everyone feels that I'm here for some sort of a reason. Some sort of a reason. And it could be that everybody is here for a different reason than everybody else. Right? My reason is just to smile at somebody in the street and save this guy's life. And then afterwards he'll be positive. Instead of jumping off a bridge, he'll get married and he'll have children, and those children will smile at people. Who knows? Who knows? To think one good thought. But nevertheless, I am here to serve my creator. That's why we're here. You feel responsibility. That's why you have a creator. He created you, and he gave you the biggest gift of all, responsibility. That's why we're here. But in this, there's two ways to serve God. And they're hinted at, the names of the Torah portion, Vayakel and Pekude. Vayakel is one way of serving God, and Pekude is another way of serving God. And Vayakel means gathering. Shemagala b'kol inyan, that you reveal in everything in the world that you come in contact, the general category of it, how it fits into a general, the general, how do you say, a category that identifies it. And what is that? L'shamash is kono. Everything is created for one purpose. Everything is exactly the same. Everything in the world, especially human beings. Everything in the world is only to serve God, every person. And everything in the world is supposed to be used to serve God with. By means of this, this brings a unity in everything in the world. Vayakel means to gather. Much more so in the Jewish people, by means of love and unity of the Jewish people. To see something good in everybody and to believe that there is something good. If you don't see it, at least to believe that there's something good. Starting with the Jews. Every Jew should see something good in every other Jew. I mean, a person could say, come on, that's a little bit selfish. Well, I mean, if you are Jewish, then you'll know that one of the most difficult things in the world is to love every Jew. To love the non-Jews, you could love them, my friend, they're far away. Then no big deal. Like, to love your next door neighbor is sometimes easier than to love your children. Your children get on your nerves, they drive you crazy. Your next door neighbor, you smile, you wave, that's it. How much do you see him? Right? And people that you know, familiarity brings contempt. To love every Jew, very difficult. Also, love begins at home. If you don't love your brother, you're not going to be able to love other people. You can bear other people, you can smile at other people, but to really love somebody means that you have to reveal the true inner connection that there is between you. My connection to be everybody in the world is we're all created by God. That's our connection. But my connection to every single Jew is that we're all created by God, and to serve, to do the Torah. The non-Jews had 7 Noahide commandments, but the Jewish people, and they're not really commandments as such. They're just guidelines in life. And the Jewish people, they have commandments. They have to put on tefillin, this, keep Shabbat. So that every Jew should have unity. The unity, that's vayakel, unity among the Jews, love among the Jews. Number two, that's vayakel, that's general, looking at everything in the world from a general point of view, so to speak, from God's point of view. Pekude means details. Pekude means taking inventory. La'achre avoda, after the service, in general way that unifies everything, but then afterwards you reveal in every single detail at the chirush, the novelty, miuchad, be'inyano, in it, the prati, l'shamish eskono, how each and everything serves God differently. How? So vayakel means that you see in everything the general principle that everything is created by God. God is infinitely good. God is creating everything for a purpose. And it doesn't make any difference what the purpose is. Every one is important. And that's vayakel, general, gather. Pekude means individual, means inventory. Every Jew is different. Every Jew has something unique to contribute to the world. Every Jew has something to teach me. And because I'm missing what all the other Jews have. Every Jew has something unique. So every Jew has something unique to teach me. And I have something unique to teach every Jew, and each one has to be taught in a little bit different way. That's called pekude. Every detail. That's the uniqueness. When this year, when we write vayakel, is in one separate portion, one separate Shabbat, and then pekude is the next Shabbat. Shebazem mutgash. This stresses that there is a completion and service of vayakel on its own. That if you serve God just by seeing the general category, that's one total unique way of serving God on its own. It's not that you see the general category, everyone is being created by God, as a preparation, as a changing your attitude. The then next step, number two, you can see the individual highness. That just seeing everything in a general way, that's a unique in itself. That's unique in itself, even though it doesn't get carried to the second level of seeing the details. That you reveal, just to reveal the unity in all of the whole creation and in all the Jewish people, that's enough in itself. That's what it means when it's separate. And therefore, it's not necessary to wait until there's revealed all the details in pekude. Vayakel is sufficient. So in other words, again, what are we saying? Vayakel, pekude, usually they're put together, means that you see everything is basically good. That's a preparation for seeing that every individual is uniquely good. That's a preparation. But when the two Shabbos are separate, it's telling us another message, that to see that everything in general is good, that itself is wonderful. That itself is a complete service of God, without seeing the details. We can attach this also, this idea of unity, with Parshat Shkolim, that we're going to read that this week. That we read today. But what's Parshat Shkolim? In the beginning of the month of Adar, they would announce, and people would bring Shkolim to the Holy Temple, a half of a shekel. Everyone had to bring a half a shekel to the. And that's read in Parshat Kitisa. Last week we read the beginning. Let's talk about the half of a shekel. That's what we're talking about. But now we're reading the Vayakel. Vayakel this year, Shkolim happens on Vayakel. Okay, what does it mean, Shkolim? Just excuse me 1 second. There are 4 Torah portions, special haftorahs, that are read before Passover. 4. One of them is Parsha Shkolim. Another one is Parsha Zachar. That's right before Purim. Shkolim is read on the beginning of Adar. Zachar is read before Purim. Then there's Para, and there's Parshat HaChodesh. Parshat HaChodesh. Para is talking about refining yourself, removing death, and Parshat HaChodesh is talking about the new month. It's a Chodesh and then a Para. Parshat HaChodesh is talking about the new month of Nisan, and Parshat Para is talking about refining yourself from death. That's what the Para Aduma did. So these 4. The first of the 4 that are read are Parshat Shkolim. That's Parshat Shkolim, telling about how everybody brought a half of a shekel to the Holy Temple. And because it was done in the beginning of the month of Adar, so it's always read on Shabbat Mavorchim Adar. So we read this coming Shabbat, we'll read Parshat Shkalim. Parshat Shkalim, how everybody, all the Jews brought a half of a shekel to the temple. The Yadu, it's known, Hashah, the question, and what it says, Esrim Gera HaShekel, a Gera was Esrim. Esrim Gera was 1 shekel, a full shekel, and to the temple you only bring a half of a shekel. Truma Hashem. It's a known question. The question is, this commandment of bringing a shekel to the Holy Temple is really only bringing a half of a shekel. And it says, what's a half a shekel? A half a shekel is 10 gera. 10 gera, like 10 dimes or something. 10 gera. That's a half a shekel. A full shekel is 20 gera. So the question is always asked, why does it even say you have to bring a half of a shekel? Just say bring 10 gera. You have to give 10 gera. Why do we stress the fact that there's a whole shekel, which is called 20 gera? And you don't give a whole one, though. No, not a whole one. You only give a half. Why saying that you're giving a half to the Holy Temple? Why stress you're giving a half? It's not a nice thing to say you only give a half of a shekel to say I'm giving 20 gera, that's good enough. Why remind us that 1 full shekel is 20 gera, and that we only bring a half, which is 10? Just say bring 10 gera. The explanation is that the half of a shekel, this indicates on a service of the uniting the Jewish people. Why? How does that stress? It stresses that everyone is only a half. Look, and therefore, Magishim, we stress Shekasher Yehudi, that if a Jew is found on his own and he doesn't join with another Jew, then he's only half. In order to be a complete shekel, then you have to unite with another Jew until you become united with all the Jews, every single Jew. And that's the commandment. It's a commandment in the Torah to love every Jew like you love yourself. A pirush re'echa means your friend is yourself, means not just a Jew that's found near to you, even a Jew that's found on the other end of the world. You have to love him also. He's your friend. The reason is, like the Alter Rebbe writes in the Tanya, that every one of the Jewish people is a portion of God from above. Really, the Jewish people are called the sons of God. Every Jew is called the son of God. The Jewish people as a whole are called the son of God. Right? It's the 2nd chapter of the Tanya. When Moses went in, God sent Moses the first time into Paro. So God tells Moses, say to Paro, my son, that I'm coming from. Moses is supposed to say to Paro, say in my name, says God to Moses, tell Paro in my name, my sons, my chosen ones, Israel. But it doesn't say that. It says, my son, my chosen one, B'ni B'chori. And later on also, in the Torah, it talks about, when it talks about not to carve on your body, so it says, Banim atem l'Hashem Elokechem. You are sons of God. Jewish people are sons of God. So it means every Jew is connected to God, is a son of God. If you hate another Jew, you hate God. That's inside. Every Jew has a portion of God inside. And unlike a son, when he's separate from the father, so he's a separate entity, he can go his own way. Okay, but he still remains a son of his father. But it could be his father won't recognize him. By God, it doesn't work that way. God recognizes everybody. He recognizes every single Jew. You can never really be separate, no matter what you do. As soon as you say, I'm Jewish, that's it. You've identified as the family. Hari ha'etzem ad an essence. When you grab a hold of it, you grab the whole thing. If so, Harikol Ben Israel, all the Jewish people, they're one unit. Even b'mikre, even if there is something, the shlol etzel chavero and bilti ratzui, even there is by another, you find something not good in another Jew. Hari atzura hachi yali ya'ila. Also, even if you find in your friend something that's not good, and you have to somehow or other convince him or influence him to stop doing this bad thing, the way to do it is shemashpia alav b'darki noam b'darki shalom. Right? You see a person that is a loudmouth and he's a dishonest and he's a this, and you can't stand the guy. The best way you want to have something to do with him, you have to fix him up. It's an obligation. You have to do it. You have to tell him, but tell him in a nice way. Or if he won't listen to you, send somebody else to tell him in a nice way. Send him a letter. But it has to be in a way of love. In other words, you have to show that you care about the person. You're not just trying to correct the other person because he gets on your nerves, and that you're disturbing me. Because the person is not good for you. Not good for you to have a bad temper and to be dishonest and good for you. So, okay, maybe it'll work, it won't work, but the fact is that that's the way to deal with other Jews, has to be in a way of love. So that's the idea of vayakel, and the idea of a half of a shekel. Vayakel means to gather everyone together, see the common factor in all of us, and half a shekel means to realize that if you don't do so, then you're only half. You're only half of a person. That you need others in order to complete yourself. Behold, if you want to make unity in the world and in the Jewish people, we can begin again in the world, because everyone is created by God. There's only one God, creates everybody. That's unity. Now we're talking about this general unity, not the details. That we'll talk about next week. Therefore, you have to begin with vayakel. Vayakel. You want to gather, want to make peace in the world, want to make peace between the Jewish people. You want to love every person. You want to love every human being. You want to love every Jew. First of all, you have to love yourself. Charity begins at home. Beini ubein kono, between you and God. Bezel, that's what it means. In other words, you yourself have to come to love God, and God is the unifying factor. But if you don't care about God, then how are you going to unify people, right? It's like saying that you think that unites us all is because we're all Americans. I said, but I hate America. Oh yeah, you hate America also. I saw you burn the flag. What are you talking about? Yeah, but we still are all Americans, and that should get us all together. If you're going to burn the American flag, you're not going to convince people to be Americans. The same thing, if you're going to burn your connection with God, then you're not going to convince people that God is good and God is uniting us all, right? So first of all, you have to fix up your connection with you and your Creator. And like I said before, God is not just creating us. He is creating us for sure, but not just creating us. He's creating us, giving us a bigger gift than just our existence. He's giving us the gift of responsibility. So first of all, you have to recognize God and recognize your responsibility to God and actually to do it. Do your responsibility. That's step number one. That's one of the explanations, what it says. That's why when we're talking about this half of a shekel, which that's this week's Torah, the Shabbat is Parshat Shkolim. It says, why does it say that a gera, there's 20 gera in a shekel, and you only have to give a half? Why does the Torah tell us about that you only give a half? Say, give 10 gera. What does it have to say that 10 is a half of 20, which we know 10 is half of 20, and that one full shekel is 20, and we only give a half? Why say that? Because you have to know that kol echad ve'echad, that each and every Jew, mu'uchad im HaKadosh Baruch Hu, is united with God, with ultimate unity. Va'ad she'im chad mamash, until they're one. One way of looking at it as a half is that I'm half and every other Jew is the other half. Another way of looking at a half is that I'm half and that God is the other half. And there's, first of all, you have to complete that puzzle of how to unite God's half with our half, God's 10 aspects of godliness, the 10 sfirot with my 10 sfirot. That's to have that. And then you can start working with every Jew. Like it says, Esrin Gera Shekel, Machzis a Shekel Truma Hashem. That every single one of the Jewish people is united with God, and the ultimate to become one. Therefore, every Jew is only a half, and God is the other half, so to speak. And therefore, HaKodesh Baruch Hu, God, it also comes to show how close God is to us. That God is like us, but he's half. God is completing us. God is completing me. And so God is what you want to call my better half. And therefore, God, Kodesh Baruch Hu, Shinit Labish Beser Sfirot, that he's put into what's called the 10 Sfirot, is like Eser Gera. God is one half. And each Jew, that he also has Eser powers of the soul, that's another half. But only when you unite with God, you realize that I am being created by God, and God wants me to be here. He wants me to be, I'm important in God's eyes, but I have to unite with God. So God, on one hand, he sort of needs me. That's why he's making me. He needs my 10 sfirot, and I certainly need God. There's no doubt about that. When we're together, that makes 20 gera, my 10 powers of soul powers, and God's 10 creative powers. Is that makes 20, and that's a shekel of kodesh. That makes a holy shekel. Let's explain this a little bit deeply, a little bit more deeply. The first thing that a Jew does immediately when he wakes up in the morning is he says, Modeh Ani. We've talked about this before. Now, this is very important. Everyone listening to this and reading this, it's very important to do this. That when you wake up in the morning, whether you're a Jew or you're not a Jew, when you wake up in the morning, the first thing you do is acknowledge that you're grateful to God that you woke up. That you're grateful to God that you're alive. That's the first thing you should do in the morning. You get up from your bed, you sit up, and you say, Modeh Ani, I am grateful to you, God, Melech Chai V'Kayom, you're eternal living King. You gave me back my soul. Your faith in me is great. This indicates an uniting with God, Tachlit. First thing he does, before he knows who he is, before anything, he says, Modeh, I'm grateful to you. And he doesn't even say, I am grateful. He says, grateful am I. The grateful comes before the I. This is a general service of God. This is before and above any of the details of the day. The first thing you do is you say this Modeh. After that, you start preparing for serving God. You wash your hands, you go to the bathroom, brush your teeth, put on your clothes, go to shul. Then you sit down, read a little bit of Chassidut, start thinking about God, putting on tefillin, a hand, the head. Tzitzis on beforehand, you're supposed to put on tzitzit. Then you start to pray. The prayers are arranged in a way like the ladder of Jacob. Little by little, this is the first rung, that's the Psuki Dezimra, etc. Little by little. But the basic of the whole thing is the Modeh Ani, uniting with God. Al Derech, this is like Vayakel, like we said before, a general service of God. General. Uniting all of the powers of your soul, your whole personality, into one big bundle. I'm being created by God. Thank you. That's all what it says, Modeh Ani lefanecha, that grateful am I before you, shematchil, that you begin with the idea of grateful. Not with the word I. Why? Because every single one of the Jewish people, Ma'uchad, is united totally as one. The Ani lefanecha, the I before you start off first of all with gratitude to God. Harizeh, Dvar Malchut, this is obvious. You don't have to stress this fact that every single Jew, the whole world is being created by God. Therefore, you have to stress, number one, Im Avodah Shelo, it's of the Modeh. Therefore, the first thing is you have to be grateful and thankful. and give praise to the Creator. Modeh, I'm thankful. First thing in the morning, that's what you should do. And then afterwards, I. And then after that, with lefonecha, in front of you, God. So then after that, you can start to work in the world. Yesh lahol sleep, we can say that immediately when you wake up from your sleep, this includes also what the Rambam says, waking up from your sleep, that's the message of the shofar on Rosh Hashanah. He said that everyone that's asleep in the emptiness of time, lo aleinu, that people who are sleeping, there's a lot of people in the world, and also a lot of Jews in the world, that they say that there's no reason for being alive. We're just here. And you just follow your urges, and that's it. That there's no reason why we're alive. We're just here, just alive. You wake up in the morning, you have an urge to eat, you eat. You have an urge to go to the bathroom, go to the bathroom. You have an urge to this. Whatever you want, that's okay. That's not a sustainable, mission statement in life, just to do what you want. In the end, it comes out, they tried that in the 60s a little bit, and this came out total chaos. And it worked for a while, a year or two. There was just love and peace and no property, this, and then everything, the whole thing just crumbled totally. For whatever reasons it was, but never as it was. We're saying no. If you want to have order and prosperity and happiness and life and health in the world, then you have to realize what is our mission statement. Our mission statement is that there is God and that we should realize it. We should be grateful, at least our common gratitude, right? Not being ingrate. God is creating us. He's creating us for free. So that's number one. And he's creating everybody. So that's what it means. As soon as he wakes up in the morning, that means even those people who are waking up in the morning means waking up in life. As soon as you start to wake up in life and realize that life does have meaning and it does have a purpose, and you do have responsibility, and there is right and wrong, absolute. And so you have to wake up. First of all, you have to admit, you have to be aware, discover that there is a creator, and this creator is not in America, and you're in Europe, and you're going like Columbus over the sea. This is you right now. You're being created right now. It's right in the most obvious thing in the world. But you have to wake up from your sleep. If you're asleep, you don't realize it. You have to wake up from your sleep, from the sleep that you think that there's no meaning in the world. And you think that there's no purpose to life. Wake up. And that's what the beginning of this service is. First of all, you have to know that you are one with the essence of God. That God is creating you and loves you and cares you. Shehu Elokim, that you are if you're a Jew, you have a portion of God really within. That's the essence of the whole idea of Vayakel. Everyone in the world is one. We have one common factor, and that is that God is creating us. And every Jew has that common factor, but even in a little bit deeper way. That not only is God creating us, but he's creating us for a special purpose in the world. Everyone's being created for a purpose, but the Jews have a special purpose in the world. We have to bring the whole world to this awareness that we're talking about here, that God is creating them. Right? The non-Jews don't have an obligation to convince the world that God is creating them. The fact is, he is. But we Jews have an obligation to try to convince the world that God is creating everyone and that everyone is created from God's love, but everyone has responsibility according to the Torah. But first, step number one, we have to realize the common factor of all the Vayakel that gathers everything together. And that without this common factor, we're only half of a shekel. Namely, that God exists and that God cares about us. Modani, we have to be grateful to God. As we're going to talk about more, God willing, tomorrow.